This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Let's get right into the news. All right, so we're going to be breaking down the last day of this. Well, not the last day. Today, through day 3. Day 3. I think this is the last day of the government asking Cassie questions. They've been getting really into details that don't matter. So we'll see how this goes. But so let me refresh this. We picked it off about halfway. I just wanted to wait for the day to finish before we got back into all this. So let's go through this. All right, so they would like organize these freak offs, and so let's see. Here's some freak off information. Let's see. A music festival. Okay, so this we picked off where Diddy became furious and smashed her head when she said she went to go to Drake's concert. And she sent a photo of the injury to Diddy and wanted him to feel sorry. So she was in the green room in Toronto. I pulled hair over my eye, and then we went to the Hamptons. Okay. So Sean wanted to have a freak off in the Hamptons after this. And we got a hotel and an escort. They asked which one. She said, Dave. I took GHB and went to G-hole and blacked out. I woke up nude in the shower. Dave and Sean were freaking out. I bugged out. It wasn't pretty. Then what? Cassie said, I spoke to a friend of Sean's, and then we had a freak off. Cassie, my eyebrow healed up a bit, but a week later, I had a permanent scar on the eyebrow. Cassie, what is this? This is when we met at the Cannes Festival. She says, they said, what happened at Cannes? Cassie says, Sean accused me of taking drugs from his boat. He threw me off, but my passport was still on the boat. The government says, so were you on the red carpet the same night? Cassie says, yes. Government says, did you attend the movie? Cassie says, yes. Cassie says, how did you get back to New York? The government says, how did you get back to New York? She said, on a commercial flight. I traded my seat to get away, but he traded the one next to get next to me. Cassie, what did he show you? Cassie said, Free God videos. He played me on one of his laptops. He said he'd release them. Jeez. This is blackmail. This could be another charge. Who knows? Then the government says, how'd you feel? Cassie says, trapped. Government says, when you landed in New York, what did you do? Cassie says, we went out for dinner. Then he wanted to do a freak off, so we had a freak off. I love how they call them freak offs. It's just crazy. It's like, government, why'd you do it? Cassie says, to make him not threaten me. Government, let's just read from these. June 13th, 2013, Sean had been violent with you before this. Cassie says, yes. Had you told him you didn't want to do freak off? She says, yes. You needed GHB? Yes. And that 2 escorts were not available. I wrote only Paul available, or Jake the white guy, but he can't do until 11. The other guy can do earlier. It's just one more person knowing our secrets. AUSA asked what? The freak offs, their secrets. So they went to a hotel in Hollywood, SLS Hotel. That's a big hotel near the Beverly Hills Center, right? What did you take Valium before the freak off? She says, yes, I would. I had extreme anxiety. Sean's driver was bringing Valium. I think it was Reem. Judge, jurors can take lunch now. So they take lunch. Boom. Then, they go back when the jurors take lunch, they go back and forth with different lawyers, right? One lawyer is for another witness coming up, Mia, which is Diddy's assistant. Says the jury has instruction about. He says there is a jury instruction about victims, correct? And they says Mia would have taken this to her grave. I don't know how to support her if we can't discuss her pain, what she went through. We will not put words in her mouth. Her nerves are through the roof. Judge says, we were trying to prevent witnesses from being concealed on how to testify. Counseled on how to testify. What to say or anything like that. Then the lawyer for Mia says, I'm afraid she'll have a moment, lose it. Then ask me, did I forget something? I worry. What? Now counsel for Jane Doe. There's a Jane Doe. I'm worried that Jane Doe will not know what she can ask me. Judge says, as long as you don't coach a testimony. Counsel for Casey Ventura. I have nothing to add. Judge says, Miss Shapiro, we've spoken to each attorney. Okay. All right, so around 2 o'clock, they're back. The judge, as to Exhibit 619, the objection to defendant proposal is overruled. Let's have Miss Ventura back, and we'll bring in our jury. Jury enters, and then they start going on. They says, the galley will not be able to see exhibits. Miss Ventura, I will show you exhibits 2A404. Who is it? Cassie says she worked for Sean. Then the government says, we will call her Mia. When I give you your devices to the government, were they working? Wait, when you gave your devices to the government, were they working? Cassie says, no, they were broken. Government says, put up 602A from Miss Ventura and the jury only. What's on your skin? She says, oil. AUSA, when did Sean first hurt you physically? Cassie says, it started in the first year we were dating. The government says, what staffers were present when Sean was physical with you? And they say objection, blah, blah, blah. And then the government says punching, hitting. And then the government says, when did Sean first use violence on you? Cassie says, in New York City, we were in a car with his security, and he knocked me around. They asked what he did. She says, he hit me on the side of the head. I fell to the floor of the Escalade. Government, on January 2009, did you attend LA with Sean? She says, yes. What happened as you left? Cassie says, I'd been speaking to a producer about music. Sean called me a SLUT. I hit him in the face. She hit him in the face. She said she had been drinking. Government, did you see any injuries? She says, no. I was on the floor of the car and he stomped on my face. Government, how long did this last? She said, about 10 minutes. Then I tried to get away and Sean's security brought me back. She said, who? Roger Bonds. Oh, remember this guy? This guy's that did the Vlad interview, and he's now on Cassie's side, but he was kind of a cooperator at one point with Diddy. Government, what did they tell me? They said, go to the hotel. Ventura says, then they snuck me into a hotel and covered me up so no one could see my face. How long were you at the London hotel? She says, about a week or more. An assistant brought me ice cream. And the assistant's name was Genevieve. All right, so that's that. They did that. Hold on, let me get to another string. Okay. Hold on one sec. Jeez, they ask her a lot of questions, man. All right, here we go. So then Sean went through my phone during a freak out and found an email. Okay, wait. Did you come to the hotel where they were staying? Cassie says, yes. He beat me up and called me names. My face was bruised. Photo, who is it? Scott Mescudi, as known as Kid Cudi. We dated in 2011. Government, did Sean find out? Cassie says, yes, in my phone. Cassie says, Sean went through my phone during a freak off, probably, and then he found an email. And then the government says, about what? Cassie says, taking my toiletry bag to Scott's the next day. Sean put a wine opener in his hand, and he threw me. I called Scott on a burner phone. Government says, where'd you go? To Scott's house. Then I talked with Capricorn Clark, one of Sean's assistants. Government, then what? Because then I went to the house where Sean was staying at. He told me he would release the videos and hurt Scott. And I. Okay. Cassie says, what videos? I'm sorry. Cassie says, the freak out videos of me. Sean kicked me in the back, and I got a bruise. Then Cassie says, I went back to my hotel with a burner phone. The room was torn up. Someone peed all over the floor, pooped in the toilet, didn't flush it. It was gross. This was just before Christmas. And she says, I sent an email to my mom and Capricorn from my flight to Boston and Connecticut. They said, would you write? She says that Sean said he would release the tape of me on Christmas and he'd have Scott hurt and me. He would be out of the country then. The government says, what are the photographs? Cassie says, my mother took them there in Connecticut of the bruises on my back. You were entirely honest with your mother about the abuse? Cassie says, no, I said this was the first time. Then they asked, did you tell her about the freak-offs? And Cassie says, is it possible to take a break? This is too much. You already went through the craziest stuff. Judge breaks. Okay, so then at 3 o'clock, they're back. The judge says, Ms. Johnson, any estimate? The AOSA says an hour or more. The goal is to finish direct and allow the start of the cross-examination today. They bring the witness back in, and the jury enters, and let's see. They ask, did anyone see you in Connecticut? And then Cassie says, Scott did. Kid Cudi, I broke it off with him. It was too dangerous. Cassie then says, Sean said he would hurt both of us. They said, would you go after Connecticut? She says, I went to go see Sean. He was in Arizona, his son college. I told my mother I was going to go to LA for work. They said, did Sean talk about Scott's car? Cassie says, Sean said he wanted Scott's friends to see Scott's car blown up. Cassie, then they say, what happens next? Cassie says, we met. Scott told me, Scott said, what about my vehicle? Government says, put a photo up. And then Cassie says, me and Sean in Kingston, Jamaica for sound clash. They say, were you bruised? She says, yes. This is the photo of it. Me in Sean's bathroom, September 8th, 2015. What were you doing in there? She says, recuperating from being beaten up by Sean in Las Vegas. Cassie says, we were having an after party in the suite. I talked to a producer, and Sean tapped me on the shoulder. He called me into our bathroom, and then he beat me. He kicked me, and I tried to hide behind a toilet. They said, what stopped it? D-Rock and James Cruz came in. See, they know everything. Cassie says, it made D-Rock sad. Then they ask, what are these communications? Cassie says, from D-Rock to me. He says, where you at? It's time to put ice on your face. Government says, why? She says, I had just been beaten up by Sean. AOSA says, were all the times he beat you? Cassie says, no, there were more. The government says, with who else did you see Sean be violent with? So she said, I saw him drag an assistant out of bed. I saw him punch Eli in his head. One time at Turks and Caicos, he dragged a person. Cassie says, I believe we had a freak off in Turks and Caicos. Government says, what floor did you live in on 875 Comstock? She said, the 17th floor. Government says, did a friend stay with you? She says, yes. Sean came and held her and threw all of her patio furniture out from the balcony. I saw Sean bring her back from over the balcony, then throw her on the patio furniture. Was this Carrie Morgan? Cassie says, I saw Sean hit her in the head. And then Cassie says, occasional drug dealers, opiates, Xanax, and Valium. Sean would put the pills and vitamin C bottles on the sink on the New York apartment. He'd say, you can take them. He had doctors who would write scripts in the name of the assistant or in my name. Your brother's birthday party in Connecticut in 2013. What happened? Cassie says, my mother told me someone was taking pictures of me. I went and punched her in the head. You testified your relationship with Sean ended in 2018. How was your health? She says, I was sleepwalking. I had PTSD. A photo. Then they showed a photo of her front door 2018. They published it to the jury. And she says, Sean was coming around a lot. So I had it. Then in 2018, what happened? Cassie says, we were having a closure conversation at a restaurant in Malibu. He was trying to convince me to go to Burning Man. Government says, were you seeing him anymore? Were you seeing anymore? Ventura says, my now husband. Were you seeing anyone? They wrote it wrong. My current husband. What next? Cassie says, Sean came to my house and raped me on my living room floor. This was when my eyes were black. It was like taking something from you. Ventura says he continued to finish inside of me. Then he got up and left. They asked, did you ever have sex with him again? She says, yes, voluntarily. We had a good night. I went back to his house. We had been together for 10 years. This girl's confused, bro. Whoa. After all that, she left him, dating now the trainer that's now her husband. And Sean, Diddy took advantage of her on the floor. Then she still saw him again and had consensual sex. Then the government says, let's see. What did he send you? Cassie says that he had iPads full of images. Get him his money. Wait, what is this? Who'd you get in touch with? Most people I pulled away from. Money back for what? For having paid for my now husband's okay. So Diddy wanted a refund on the trainer that he hired for her. Trainer he hired for her because now they're together, right? So she's like, yeah, I ain't paying for your hookups. Then the government says, would you write back when he asked for the money back? She says, do you really want me to tell the truth? It's much deeper than iPads. There was abuse and more freak-offs. Cassie says, there was a time I couldn't take the pain. Tried to walk out in traffic. My husband wouldn't let me. I had trauma therapy. Government, what'd you write? Cassie says, a book with chapters. My mom helped. The government says, what'd you want with a book? Cassie, that Sean read it. Government, what pain did Sean put you through? She says, shame to carry things that were shameful for him. I took on a lot of responsibility that I never should have. He brought the concept to me when I was 22. It was expected of me. I felt terrible. Then the AO says, how'd you get chapter to Sean? She said, through my attorney, reached out to KK and asked her if he read it. She says it was not taken seriously. Government says, how much did you ask for the book? Cassie says, $30 million. Government, did you sue? Ventura says, November 2023. They asked, what happened with the lawsuit? Ventura says, it settled for $20 million in 24 hours. Oh, so she got 20 mil. Government, why are you testifying in this trial? Cassie says, I can't carry this anymore. What's wrong is wrong. I treated people like they were disposable, escorts, anybody. The government asks, how many freak-offs have you had with Sean? Cassie says, impossible to know, hundreds. After you broke up with Sean, did you ever do a freak-off? She says, no, that's not true. She just kind of said she did before, but anyways. Then they did a sidebar before cross. And then they said that the Combs attorney says she will be finished by the end of the week. So no cross today, the judge says. He says, we'll just make up the time in other ways, get the jury. The witness can be excused. The judge says yes. The jury enters. Judge says, we can't do any robbing wrong. Let's see. That's basically it for the day right there. So they're going to do a cross for tomorrow, Thursday and Friday of Cassie. Then other witnesses will come in. But this is the star witness. This is everything. So we'll have to see how this goes. Other girlfriends are going to come in, possibly alleged gay lovers. It's going to be crazy. Anyways, they covered a lot. They're going to just try to paint Cassie as doing this for money now. Listen, man, there's a lot of ways to look at this. Was it consensual in the beginning? Maybe. You know? Does Diddy have like a God complex? Absolutely. They can't call this guy Brother Love. This guy's anything but love. Brother Control, changing his name to Love and all that. It's people that do overdo things like that. Like, I'm the best person in the world. Look, I'm going to give back. I'm doing this and that. Sometimes those people are the most evil people, you know, because they're all about public perception. Anyways, that's a wrap for day 3. And tomorrow we'll pick up and see if the defense is prepared to discredit Cassie. Because if they don't do that, he's going to get charged with something. JordanTower with JT News. Peace.